Welcome one, welcome all, and welcome back for another dose of nightmare fuel. You know what's cute as shit? Little furry animals. Just look at them. Harmless, adorable, and snuggly. They roam the wilderness of the countryside without a care in the world, just being fluffy little balls of happiness. That's what most kids think, right? Well, how about we get to the reality of the situation? Because you know what's a hell of a lot more real than bunny rabbits being gorgeous? The food chain, motherfuckers. Every day is a fight for survival and death lurks around every corner. A concept which overdosed kids around the world with nightmare fuel back in 1978. It's time to get on our hiking boots and take a not so leisurely stroll through Watership Down. This animated feature, adapted from the 1972 novel by Richard Adams, looked on the surface to be a lovely little film about forest animals. But what we ended up with is one of cinema's most notorious examples of a kids movie turned on its head and injected with a plethora of hostility. Watership Down goes far beyond being just about rabbits and instead invents an entire mythology behind where rabbits came from. In the intro, we are told that all rabbits were created by a god named Frith. The rabbits multiplied but were greedy, and so there was a shortage of food that threatened their existence. Frith commanded the prince of rabbits, named El Ahriar, to control the rabbits from overindulgence, but El Ahriar scoffed at the idea. As a result, Frith heel-turned and gave many animals powers to become predators and hunt the rabbits down until they learned their lesson. When they did, Frith gave the power of cunning and speed to the rabbits, but left the predators with their powers. Bet you weren't expecting that kind of backstory. It's genuinely super intriguing and interesting to dive into an almost religious explanation of why the food chain is the way it is and why rabbits in particular have the traits that they do. It's really cool, but also frightening that because of the rabbits being greedy, their god just straight up made other forest animals crave the taste of rabbit flesh in order to control the populace. That's just mental, man. However, after this beautifully animated mystical intro, we jump into a more modern setting. The movie takes place in a warren near the hamlet of Sandalford in Berkshire, where we meet Fiver, voiced by Richard Briers. Fiver is a rabbit seer, which means he's essentially like a prophet, and he has a vision of an oncoming apocalypse that is going to eradicate the rabbits. It's a very scary vision indeed, as Fiver sees the fields of the warren fill up with blood, followed by silhouettes of crooked tree branches to an ominous music score. Along with his older brother Hazel, voiced by John Hurt, he tells the rabbit chief of this vision, but he has none of it, and so a group of rabbits escape the community in order to get away from the oncoming apocalypse and fight for survival. But by doing that, they leave their seemingly secure home and delve deep into the treacherous wilderness of the warren, where predators and deadly obstacles of all kinds await them. Right away, the rabbits are threatened by the darkness of the woods, an owl flying overhead, a badger with blood-soaked teeth popping out of a bush, even dogs roaming the fields, all of which pose a danger to the rabbits, but they manage to avoid them with their cunning. However, they start to learn about different threats than just the animal kingdom as they come across a roadkill hedgehog, just lying in the road, squashed and bloody. What a horrific sight for a kid to see. But sadly, it's something that happens every day, and we now know that the rabbits don't just have their predators to fear, but man itself. All the dangers combined can come at any time, such as when one of the rabbits, named Violet, is suddenly swooped off the ground by a hawk, never to be seen again. The scary side to this isn't that Violet has been killed, but that the rabbits don't react with any kind of emotion. They just say that they have to keep moving. To me, this says that the rabbits are desensitized to death because of how much they experience it in their day-to-day lives, and it puts over that the world around them is constantly surrounded by life being snatched away in an instant. Man-made dangers come into play further down the line when one of the main rabbits, Bigwig, gets caught in a snare which chokes him, causing him to cough up blood. That's just such a cruel sight, but luckily his friends get him free just in time. The group bump into Captain Holly, a rabbit from their original warren, who tells them how farmers excavated the land by filling up the burrows with soil and noxious gas to kill the rabbits off. We see twisted, sickening sights of the rabbits underground going mad, their eyes turning red as they begin to die off and clog up the burrows, with the surviving rabbits scrapping with each other desperately to try and get out. The imagery here is extremely extremely nightmare-inducing and triggers the claustrophobia meter for certain. The farmers prove to be a continuous threat to the rabbits, as while taking shelter in a barn, two farmers discover the rabbits and open fire with a shotgun, wounding Hazel with buckshot. No matter where the rabbits try to settle, they always end up being attacked. They have to keep moving to ensure their survival. Captain Holly tells the group about a warren he was a part of called Ephrafa, that is a corrupt society led by an evil rabbit named Woundwort. Woundwort is blind in his left eye and leads with oppression. Any rabbit who tries to escape Ephrafa has their ears torn to shreds as punishment, and the female rabbits, the doors, are subtly viewed as being objects of sexual desire as their sole purpose. We learn this as Bigwig decides to infiltrate Ephrafa as a soldier for Woundwort, but then breaks free the rabbits being held captive there, and as revenge, Woundwort states that he's going to blind him. Woundwort and his soldiers track the rabbits back to their burrows and kick off an all-out battle, with Woundwort butchering innocent rabbits with his teeth, blood gushing out of every bite mark. When he and Bigwig encounter in a showdown, they scratch away at each other, tearing into each other's flesh, blood seeping into their fur. Some of the rabbits break the farmers' ravenous dogs free for them to attack Woundwort and his soldiers, which leads to the dogs chewing and devouring the rabbits to pieces. Woundwort dives in to fight one-on-one with a dog, but his body is said to have never been found afterwards, presumably sharing the same fate as his Ephrafa comrades. Watership Down is recognized as being one of the most violent kids movies ever made, and never shies away from showing you the natural world, warts and all. Critics praised this aspect as, rather than dumbing down the original story, they found that the adaptation was faithful to the darkness and grittiness of the novel, and that's great from a filmmaking standpoint, but in terms of being a children's animated film, that decision scarred a lot of young people. The film is almost too real, well, aside from the talking animals aspect, but the world Watership Down takes place in feels authentically like a real ecosystem. Animals are in a pecking order of a constant cycle of life and death, hunt or be hunted, kill or be killed, because that simply is what these ecosystems are like in the real world. So it is a genuinely accurate representation from that perspective, but the film is almost too mature for its target audience. Poor innocent animals are eaten, tortured, bitten, lashed at, scratched, choked, beaten down and squashed to the point where the sight of oozing blood becomes second nature. All of the animals in this film are not cute and cuddly. Everyone is an enemy to something else. Even the rabbits themselves are heroes and villains to not only each other, but to other species in the animal kingdom. Watership Down does succeed in being a very poignant movie, one that definitely as an adult garners more appreciation than being seen by a young child. It even handles the concept of the origins of life and the inevitability of death in a creative and respectable manner, with rabbits referring to their own deaths as seeing the black rabbit. There's an entire lore to the rabbits integrated into this film, and it is truly fascinating, but I feel that the concepts here are quite high up and inaccessible to kids, again being too mature for how it was initially presented. The film did do very well in cinemas, but I feel like had it have had a more appropriate age certification, the right audiences would have seen it, rather than having the brutality of nature scarring children for life and making them never look at animals in the same way again. In fact, the British Board of Film Classification has received complaints every year since its release about the movie being labelled as a U rating, meaning that it is suitable for all ages, which quite clearly it isn't. Even though Watership Down was later adapted as a series between 1999 and 2001, and again as a miniseries in 2018, the original 1978 adaptation is still considered to be the greatest, but also the most nightmare-inducing version of this classic tale. But what do you lot reckon? Did Watership Down scar you as a child, or did you not experience it until you were a bit older and have a different view on it altogether? Whatever your thoughts, stick them down below in the comments, and while you're there, if you'd like to join the safest warren in the world, entry can be gained by simply hitting that subscribe button, or else you'll be fed to the wolves. I'm Connor from Unleash the Ghouls, and until next time, good night and sweet nightmare-fueled dreams.